Hello everybody, Larry Young here again with another segment of OLaMan Living Life of Purity. And today I want to talk about new developments coming out of the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we all know what's been going on up there the last several years, the craziness going on with Governor Walz and his fetish for tampons in boys' restrooms. But the University of Minnesota is now telling parents and families of students and others around the state that they need to re-educate their white children. This is a follow-through on the white privilege stain that they tried to say that white people are naturally stained with the implication of racism just because they're white. They're naturally racist. They kept using the Saul Alinsky play for several years, and it's taken effect on a lot of people, especially your younger women and your older women who really didn't have a lot of opinions to gather beforehand. So they've taken these opinions in because this is what they've seen online. Well, their tactics with the Saul Alinsky play was to go after your daughters, get their brains, because they know that the women run the social orientation in families and groups and other things like that. Guys are the get it done, solve the problem type stuff. You know, if the women say there's a problem, the guys say, we'll just handle it. You know, whatever you do is fine. But they let them do that too much, and then they sort of tip the scales in one direction too far that it's really hard to bring it back to some sort of equilibrium. Well, anyway, so they got the female brains. They've kind of cornered everybody on empathy and the compassion argument. And what they've done there is they've tried to equivocate compassion or your feelings of compassion and empathy for a situation as being morally virtuous. So if you exhibit compassion or talk about compassion or empathy for somebody, then that gives you moral virtue as a reward. And so you can wear this on your lapel like one of these, poofy fart balls that the liberals like to spit out all the place. This is a false equivalency that's going on. So they've tried to corner everybody on the compassion and empathy thing. And then if anyone wants to ask for accountability, like what are we doing here? Why are we doing it? Things like that. What did you do with the money we gave you last time? What's going on? They will immediately label you as a racist or to push on you that you don't support what these compassionate things were about. You don't want to feed hungry children. You don't care if people die. This kind of stuff. That's not what they're saying at all. They're trying to say, what did you do with the money I gave you last time? It's like a parent with a kid away at school, and the kid asks for a couple $1,000s because they got bills and things like that. And then 2 weeks later, they call wanting another couple $1,000s. The parent's got to say, well, what did you do with the last money? If they're not asking that, something's off balance here, and we need to correct that a little bit too. So accountability has become a negative thing. It's not a positive trait of being accountable or responsible. And they've also then made maleness of being a boy or being a man is toxic in the framework of discussion out there. So they've made being a male is toxic masculinity. You can't be a man. You can't be an alpha male. You got to be a beta male. And so they pushed all these guys down and had them thinking all these feminine thoughts and saying, well, I'm wrong because I'm thinking like a guy. Oh, what was I thinking? Oh, I need to be more like a woman. And this is how you get these, trans thoughts and things like that, that I'm not worthy as a man. I need to be a woman. And this takes a lot of these soft guys into that trans phobia, or not phobia, but mania. It's a sickness either way. And so now with this push to re-educate white children, boys and girls, to re-educate them about their whiteness and the implications of that, and how being white is being problematic and is the problem for all the rest of the world, is all the white guys is the problem. So they're trying to push this onto people, another form of the fembrain with the compassion and the male toxicity. They've wrapped it all into the next layer of burrito, and they're kicking it back to us now, that they want to now blame this whiteness situation and the feelings that go with their cultures and norms and things like this. They want to blame it on family formation, that it's the problem all goes back to the families, not just because of their race or their whiteness. It's because of the families that raised them and the values that these families put upon their members of their families. And the worst of the offenders are the Christians. Oh, no, not the Christians. Not the Christians. Oh, no, it can't be the Christians. They want to blame the Christians. They want to blame the family values. They want to blame the family formation. So they're going after the families. They're going after the fathers. They're going after the formators, the ideas, the principles, your spiritual values, and just your regular civic values, flying a flag, things like that out in front of your home, being patriotic of anything, standing for the national anthem, these types of things, praying. These are problems to these folks. These are public displays, they say, entrenches white culturalism upon everyone else and makes them feel bad. So this is all bullshit. We all know it, and we have to see it when it's happening, and you got to push back on it. This is all part of the fundamental, trying to take away the support structures that we have and we built over the years. Our founding fathers would have said, stop it, repel it, don't let it in, don't let it happen. Father Knoll would have said, don't let it happen. Bishop Sheen would have said, don't let it happen. You got to stand up. So you got to stand up on these things. What else is happening right now as a symptom of this, coming out with this focus on trying to destroy the family values and the family perspective and the family discipline that comes out of things these progressive want to eliminate? Well, one of the other things they want to do, now that they've got your young girls in their mindset and their playbook, now they're pushing upon young women that they don't need a boyfriend or a man in their life. They are stronger without a man in their life. They are perfect on their own. They don't need a man. And so right now in the holiday season coming along, there used to be a tendency in the young people years ago, they called it cuffing. And that when Halloween would start the season, that at Halloween, couples would start to find each other and they would start cuffing themselves, kind of getting together, not actually cuffing, but they would be figuratively together. And so they said, yeah, I'm with Timmy now and we're going to see how things go. Or I'm with Jackie and we're, having a great time. We've been going out. And so they would typically date each other through the holiday season and, help each other through their family meetings and things like this. And just, they were a couple. They were dating. They were doing things. They were trying to grow together and do stuff. Well, now that's no longer fashionable. Young women, if they are perceived to be aligned or dating a man exclusively, they're considered to be weak. They're considered to be, not stretching themselves. They're not fulfilling themselves. Well, once they get this attitude in their head, and then there's no dating, and there's no, movement towards marriage or families and having babies and things like this, a lot of times this be a permanent situation in their lives. They can't ever get out of this tailspin that's going on. And they just go further and further down, and then they get to a point where they're not even noticed anymore. They're not even, attractive to anyone. They're not even attractive to themselves. And then they start to self-hate, and they want to do all these. They think that changing the color of my hair, getting a couple new tattoos, maybe some piercings and things like that, that'll let them know that I'm, it just makes them look more off-putting to the guys and things like that. But a lot of these women don't want guys. They would rather go home with their toy. Hate to be gross about it, but they're finding more connection with a rabbit than they are with a man. And that's a pretty poor place to be, and a sad thing to have to say. But young people are getting more attuned to mechanical love and self-loving than they are to actual physical engagement. This is where it's gotten. How do we change this? Well, if the women don't want men in their lives, they don't want babies in their lives, we're going to have a real self-eliminating subset of our population. And while that is going on, we have other people in our world are pushing out babies as fast as they can. And they're basically putting a quota on their young women to have at least 8, if not 10, children in their lifetime as a goal. They wear a lot of headscarves and things like that. So this is what's going on in the world. Families are now under attack. The family values are under attack. And white males are going to be the next target of exclusion and elimination. They're going to be going after the white males to have them excluded. And what the narrative is also pushing right now is for white girls. If they were to marry or date a white boy or man, that they are throwing away and they are not attaining the moral virtue that the rest of their group is expecting of them. They're not being compassionate. And the compassionate thing for them to do is to date a man with dark skin, maybe one who carries a Quran. And this is a false narrative that's being pushed out there, but they're saying that it's better to be with a young Muslim man as a virtue signal than it is to be with Kenny, who you grew up with down the street, who's always been a nice boy, and they come from a great family. But to do that is just to perpetuate this stain of whiteness. So these young girls are being told that they have to atone for the sins of their whiteness by marrying dark or having a dark boyfriend. I know it's messed up thinking, but it's what's out there. And this is quietly going on. And, somebody needs to say something about it. It's not across the board, but this is the trend. And so it's how any fad, or any kind of new social ritual takes foot in the world. It starts off with something like this, and then it grows. And it becomes inevitably an expectation upon people. And our young girls are the most susceptible to this. The young guys are saying, well, screw it. If she doesn't want to go out with me, I'll just go home. I got Xbox and some Pornhub, that and a pizza, and I'm good. And I save a lot of money. I don't have to spend all this money on a girl that just wants me for a free meal, and then that's it. Those days are, I think, of chivalry and expectations like that are leaving us very, very quickly. It's always wonderful when you see a couple out that's doing a traditional dating role and things like that. It's always nice to stop by their table or whatever and say, hey, you guys make a nice couple. You've been dating each other a long time, and just something like that. You guys look nice together. That is very encouraging, not only to the female brain but also to the male brain. And those little comments that you can do as older people looking upon younger people just with that simple little comment, you two look good together. It can change a moment. It can change a whole perception. So we've got a lot going on right now. I don't know about this re-education system that's being planned going on, but I know it's got a lot of ground underneath it already. People are talking about it, and I find it very, very troubling because it's just a resubmission of the same old crap that they started 5 years ago. And they're just repackaging it in a different thing, and it's going to come out, through the same process that these folks do. They always come out with something new, and they push it out through an orifice that it shouldn't be coming out of. They're trying to communicate out their ass and not out their mouth. So we got some problems here. We got to take care of these things. We have to look for them. But in the meantime, you got to remember, I love you, and I'll be back.